It is Friday, and yay for the weekend for anybody that matters to. I know for me, it's the time that I most get to spend with my boyfriend, quality time, and develop our relationship. And so that's important to me, and have some downtime together, which we don't often have during the week. We have snippets of it. So I'm excited that it's Friday. I'm excited that the weekend is going to unfold and bring me gifts. And today, here's some of the thoughts that I have been having. So, a couple weeks ago, or within the last week, or whenever it was, because I am having a hard time sometimes remembering when is when, and what time is what time, and what day is what day. And I'm sure I'm not the only one experiencing that out there. But the thing in the last week or two was that I felt overwhelmed by the amount of things that I was putting upon myself to get done in a day, 22 things on a list of, and I got overwhelmed because it's unsustainable. It's not sustainable to keep that level for that length of, for any kind of long period of time. And so I, started to reevaluate, okay, so what do I want this to look like? And then I sort of dropped everything, and my tendency is to just sort of go back to old habits. And even though I spent a lot more time on Netflix and a little bit more time than I would like to on Facebook and social media outlets, and sort of just bumming out, that today I had a coaching session. I had a connection with a friend of mine. I definitely am understanding that life is a process. And here I am in this, a little bit of a downward, bumpy, not so lovely experience in the last couple weeks, and that ultimately, I'm always at choice. So I could continue to burden myself with some of the depression that I'm feeling, get overwhelmed by the anxiety that I'm feeling, and negate some of the stuff that I've been doing in the last couple of months that I'm really, ultimately proud of, because there was some nuances in there that I changed, and effectively changed the outcome because of the behavior changes. And so even though it became overwhelming, and even though I, succumbed to that place of overwhelm, like I'm spent. I've taken a little bit of time. I've been on the boat a few times. There've been some, days, just lazy days, which is so nice, because after the intensity of being up at 6 and the regiment of get it done, get it done, get it done, having very little downtime interrupts my sleep, interrupts everything else that I do. And so the residue of that builds up over time. And I think then we succumb to it, or it becomes something that becomes overwhelming for me, for sure. And a couple of things in the last couple of days that I've heard the word tether a few times. And today it came up in coaching. Yesterday it came up with a discussion with my sister. And I like this idea of the tether. It ties me to something. So outside of me, I'm tethered to whatever this thing is that I'm tethered to. And I started reading the Donald Walsh's book, Conversations with God Today, #1. I've read it before. It was a long time ago. I'm going to refresh myself, because I'm about to start a quest with him through Mind Valley. It's a 36-day quest. So similar to the 21-day meditation that I was doing, I'm going to take on and do this alongside my mom, which I'm really excited about. I spoke about her the other day, and how much I appreciate the fact that she's dialed all the way into doing this type of work, bettering herself, standing in the fire when necessary, taking the ability to take a discernible look at herself and be willing to say, I've been wrong, or I am wrong, and changing the behavior, and being really kind. So I'm excited about all these things that are sort of coming into my experience, and doing them alongside someone that's important to me, and being able to have a discussion about the topics at hand, which are pretty deep. I started that process on my own, and sort of in the middle of that, and the 21 day and everything else, that's sort of where the culminative breakdown happened, because it was just this overwhelm of too much content, too much stuff, not being able to digest it, and not having anyone to talk to about it. But in there, it talked about, the idea that there is only love or fear. That these two things, exactly polarized, are the only two things that actually exist. And ultimately, in my opinion, love is it. And we default to fear. And I don't think I'm alone in this place of finding myself in default over and over again, this place of why I'm not good enough. Why do I think that I can have this long-term vision? Why do I think that I can have this job? Why do I think that I can have this coaching? Why do I think that I'm worthy of this, that, the other thing? And I know from talking to some of my people and from just generally what I take from others out there in, reality world, outside of my own world, is that we tend to struggle with this identity of, where do I belong? What do I do? Am I doing it right? Again, looking for outside resources to love me, accept me, make sure that I know that I'm okay at this point in time, and then I'll be more okay. And so this idea of tethering, right? So I'm either tethered to fear or I'm tethered to love. And so ultimately, over and over and over again, the question, I'm never going to get to a place where that is a definitive answer, I don't think. Because I'd like to think that it's possible that maybe one day I could definitively decide that I will never have issues with worthiness or not feeling enough or whatever the stuff is. And then, although I'm practicing something different and I'm liking the outcome of that, and it's conscious effort, and it's a daily habitual habit and it's a muscle. So I'm learning how to grow a new muscle or strengthen that muscle. And while that's happening, you know, the sort of undertow or the underground experience that I've had for the last 40 something years is pulling at that. It's like this, this constant pull back and forth between these two polarized places. And ultimately, my truest belief is that love is the answer. It's the answer and the question. And yet, we often tether ourselves to this other place of fear. And then for me, I leave myself dangling there. And I'm, help me, help me. Wandering around going, how did this happen again? Why am I here again? What the heck is wrong with me? And that's my immediate response is, there's something that must be wrong with me because I can't seem to figure this out. So today I had a coaching session, and in the middle of that coaching session, I really understood that why it's a good thing to get an outside resource, to get someone to bounce ideas off of, to talk this stuff out with other people so that maybe I can gain their insights. Maybe they'll say something that just shifts enough so that something fits into place and comes together that's never been together before. Or it's been together before and I forgot about it. So a repiphany. And ultimately, we get to decide what that looks like, right? So, today, instead of just mellowing out and being sort of Netflixy and kind of meh, like I have been in the last couple of days, I decided that I wanted that to look different. Why did I go away from meditation? Because I was feeling overwhelmed by it. But the truth is, do I want to stay away forever? No, because I actually really enjoyed the process and I noticed that my mental health improved. So even though at some point in time I took on too much, how do I regulate that so that I come back to the middle ground here, so that I build this solid foundation in this middle place instead of being in these extreme places? And I know that I'm not the only one that does that. So these are things that I'm questioning today. They're things that I'm thinking about. And really, ultimately, what I've been reading in the first, 2 chapters of this book is about love and about, when I'm asking from a place of scarcity and where I don't have something, when I'm asking from that place of desperation, I suppose. That sends out a level of desperation. That's the vibration that gets met over and over and over again. Yet, when I shift that into a place of love, a place of acceptance, a place of grace, breathe myself into my body and really regulate my feelings, pay attention to those things. Really, if I start thinking something, instead of going all the way down the rabbit hole like I normally would, okay, here I am again in the rabbit hole. How do I remove myself from this place, go back, take a step back, take a breath, take a moment, reevaluate, and then get back on course? And so today I really learned that, life is going to be a succession of rolling hills. And it used to be at some point in time jagged edges, and they'd be really high highs and really low lows, but I would stay in the low lows a long, 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 long time. And at this point in time, I'm not willing to stay there. It's uncomfortable. It's not something I like when I'm there. It's not something that I want or desire. So therefore, gaining clarity around that again and recalibrating what it is that I'm choosing to do and reevaluating all the time. Okay, so what worked last time? Is that going to work this time? Is it still working? If not, then what? If not, what can I change it to? What, constantly and consistently being in that place of strategizing. Okay, so at one point in time, this is what worked. And now it's not working as well, or I'm getting in the way of how it was working. So is there a formula that I could put into place that would get me over the hump of some of those things? And or, ultimately telling myself the truth about, where I'm at and why I'm there and what the fears are, and just allowing all of that stuff to surface and being gentle and kind with myself, because far too often I think we go, oh, you're an idiot. There we go again. Way to go. What's wrong with me? What's wrong with that? And then I automatically put myself in a position of feeling like the victim. And as long as I'm the victim, there's going to be a perpetrator. And as long as there's a perpetrator, I'm never going to govern my own life. I'm going to be at the effect of. And so here I am again, practicing yet again how to get myself back on track, how to find strategies to get myself in place that may have worked last time but need to be tweaked in some way, and get back to loyalty around treating myself well in so many ways. And, today I was reminded, like, for the last almost 90 days, I've drinking enough water for my body. First time in 47 years. This is something to celebrate, even though it becomes mundane, even though it becomes one of those things that I'm like, I'm doing it anyway. But the truth is, I have never done it consistently. I've always wanted to and never gotten there. And so when I'm there and I'm effectively strengthening this muscle and all of a sudden it's strong and I go, not good enough. What's next? Instead of really relishing in those moments of, hey, you know what? I've not been sitting in my bed every night scarfing down chocolate like nobody's business, unconsciously or even consciously, and damaging myself. I've changed behaviors that are ultimately, over time, consistently going to create some kind of real change. And instead of celebrating those things, I'm on myself about why it's not good enough, or I didn't do it well enough, or I'm not, 100% in it, therefore I must be doing it wrong, or, those extreme places where we go from one extreme to the other instead of finding some kind of middle ground that's consistent but also obtainable, something that I could consistently work towards so that I'm not feeling like I'm all or nothing, that I can have or have not. And it's a practice, just like anything. It's a practice. So I so love coming here and just sort of sharing what I'm ruminating about on a daily basis and the things that came up for me today. And I hope with my whole heart that you have been kind to yourself today, that you've given yourself the grace that you deserve, that you tell yourself the truth in those moments when maybe you're shucking and diving on yourself and you're not telling yourself the truth, that you've had some sort of release, some sort of joy, and that you understand that my love comes straight from a pure intention of love. And I so appreciate the people who come here and take a moment with me. Thank you, thank you, thank you. See you tomorrow. Happy Friday.